Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Doom.
Doom who?
Oh, just an evil sorceress who can take over your body and manipulate you to take all your money and use it for social position and power.
All right then. Would you like to come in for tea? So, life is fun when your brain is weird.
All right. Welcome to Moments of Madness Book Club. And today we're reviewing T. Kingfisher's 2024 Hugo and Nebula award winning book, A Sorceress Comes to Call.
I'm Marley, and that's AJ, and we're just two random friends talking about whatever we're interested in and recording it and uploading it into the internet. Let's get into it.
So, personal updates. Do you want to go first or am I going first?
Uh, we can do switching because you went first last time. I'll go first this
That's
time.
true. Yeah. And I'm dying to hear about your workshop thing that you did.
Excellent. All right. So, what's Marley been up to for the last 2 weeks? Well, work keeps working, so we're just going to pretend that that's not a thing, and it's not fun to talk about, so we're not going to talk about it. But I have watched two new TV series. Well, one and a bit. I watched Chaos on Netflix, which worked for me on so many levels because I've always been a big fan of Greek mythology stuff. I'm a huge fan of Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah,
100% on
he,
all
he,
fronts.
him as crazy megalomaniac Zeus, just chef's
he
kiss.
was he was really good in that
He,
too, I
he
thought.
really, really was.
And I'm so sad that they canceled it. I don't understand
I
that
know,
move on the
right?
plane.
Like, I was at the end of it, I'm like, no, I want to see where this was going. I'm
Yeah,
really invested now. They did this
I
to me
know.
with Constantine, they did it to me
Yeah.
with Firefly. But it was only acts like, what, last year, because it was 2024 production. So
Yeah.
there is maybe hope that if enough fan service happens, because that's
Yeah.
not happened with Lucifer. So,
Yeah, it would be nice if they were able to shop it around and get it onto another service, and I would definitely be there for that. But
absolutely. Maybe we can lead the charge with
yeah,
that.
I just really loved the world. Like
Hmm.
they just brought Greek culture to life, like ancient Greek culture to life
Hmm.
in a way that hasn't been
Oh,
done a lot of time.
yeah.
And I like Percy Jackson and stuff too, but that's like very modern.
Yeah, it was more of an extension of mythology rather than a new twist on it. This was a
Yeah,
new twist, and
exactly.
I liked it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And I watched the first season of Resident Alien. I got it right that time.
Yay. You
Go me.
did.
Um, Again, huge fan of Alan Tudyk.
Yeah.
Um, really, really, really did enjoy it. Some moments there were almost a little bit too cringe humor. I have a fine line with
It
cringe
did
humor.
veer into that territory a bit,
Yeah.
yeah. But
But
I think it balanced out pretty well too.
it really did.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like a lot of the American humor stuff tends to go into either ragging on someone else, which feels I just don't like it, or cringe humor.
Yeah.
And
And
cringe humor is not usually a big thing for me, but I think they walked the line fairly well on that one. So
I think
yeah.
the show really it's kind of hits its stride as you go on too, because I think we got to I want to say we got well into season 2 or maybe all the way to season 3. We like seriously binged
It's actually really easily bingeable if anyone's
Yeah,
interested because like
it's
they're
not.
short episodes and there's not a
Yeah.
humongo lot of them. So
Yeah.
I basically did all of season one yesterday. So
Yeah. And it's not like dense heavy viewing. You don't feel like you need a break.
yeah, yeah, no, it even works for the ADHD among us who usually dip in and out of things regularly. So yeah, but I've already paid for season two, so that's going to be binged over the next couple of
Excellent.
days, or maybe it'll be my nighttime watching for the 2 nights that I'm up in Sydney again.
Hmm.
Mm. So there's that. I haven't read any new books that I'm willing to admit to on camera. Uh,
Fair.
but I did try a new thing today. I went to a craft workshop, and I made resin cheese board and two coasters. So
I'm a little bit jelly because I've always been fascinated by the resin stuff and wanted to give it a try. And the photo that you showed me, it looks really cool. We'll have to chuck that into the show notes.
yeah, mate, absolutely. If you found one nearby, give it a whirl. I mean, it was only $130 for a 3-hour workshop. They provided all the materials. I get to go and pick it up next week because it needs like 20 at least 24 hours to set.
Yeah.
So they keep it there while it sets. And then I'll take all the green tape off around it, and then I'll have a finished product. But
Mm.
I'm happily put the photo of the not quite finished on
Yeah.
the socials, so you can
In
to share with
progress.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so those are pretty much my updates.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's a couple of
Cool.
new things. It's more than just work, sleep. So I'm
It
proud of myself.
sounds, yeah, it sounds like you're digging yourself out of the hole a little bit. That's really good. That's
Yep.
good. You sound much more chipper than last time we did an
Yeah,
update.
yeah. I was pretty ground down last time.
Yeah. So my update is we're at the very end of school holidays. So if there's any listeners not in Australia, at least in New South Wales, I'm not sure about the other states, you have a 10-week term of school, and then you have usually a 2-week break in between, and it's up to the parents to figure out how to entertain their children for 2 weeks while they're working and doing
What?
other
Parent
things.
our own kids?
I know
What? No.
it sucks. But no, it's not too bad now that the kids are. We used to just put them in, like book them into vacation care for 2 weeks when they were really little. But now that they're 12, we don't bother, and so they just hang out at home. We did go to the Maritime Museum.
So basically, this is just another one of those like periods where the teachers that expect us to pay them money have a holiday throughout the year that we don't
Yeah, I'm
get.
sure the teachers are just
Fucking
living it
slackers.
up, going to the
Yeah,
beach, doing
absolutely.
absolutely nothing.
Totally. Like I
Um,
know for a fact Greer has just been roaming around the countryside going,
yeah,
"Yay, I'm free, I'm free."
yeah.
They don't have to do any like
I know
syllabus
that
shit or anything.
teachers are the biggest slackers. They
Right.
just do nothing.
Right.
No, seriously. I know how hard the teachers work, and I have had plenty of
I
emails
don't want
that
to
like
teach my kid. I'm willing to give you money to do it,
yes,
okay?
I've had plenty of emails like 8 o'clock at night from teachers to know that they work their asses off, and they often use a lot of their own money for classroom supplies and stuff like that too. So I have been reading a sort of cozy fantasy series by someone called TJ Klune called the Cerulean Chronicles. Um, yeah, it's kind of an interesting one. It's an interesting concept. It's like it's a little bit political, but it's not heady political. It's very grounded in its characters and stuff. But there's this notion that, there's a world that's vaguely like our own, but magical creatures are real. But the government in the country where it's set is very highly regulatory of anyone who's magical. So, and it's not like there's wizards and witches. It's not Harry Potter like. It's more like, you're born with magic. So there's sprites and yetis, and one of the characters may or may not be the Antichrist.
And they're not sure.
Well, it's a philosophical
I mean,
question.
like I've just pulled it up, and like he had me at he lives in a tiny house with a
Yeah.
devious cat.
Um,
I'll read
so
that.
so it's the first book is kind of centered on the perspective of this public servant who basically his job is to kind of inspect orphanages where magical youth are being kept. So their parents have passed away, and they go to these special segregated orphanages where for magical kids only. And the main character goes and makes sure that the children are being suitably looked after and stuff like that. But he gets sent to this or very unusual orphanage that he had never heard of before, that's out in an island in the middle of the ocean, and yeah, it's kind of got like a little sweet romance element as well, and um, found family theme, but also there's this overarching, well, like why are you treating these people differently just because they have different abilities, you know, making them register. And it talks a
Mhm.
bit about too, like institutional abuse and themes like that. So yeah, it's kind of interesting.
I'm mildly fascinated by the concept of a were Pomeranian.
Yeah, that's kind of cute. It-
I mean, I personally think Pomeranians are the Antichrist, but
well, this one's not so bad. It maybe because he's not a Pomeranian all the time.
maybe. But I find those. I really hate Pomeranians breed.
I'm
I
not a
really,
fan of
really
small
do.
yappy dogs. I'm with you there.
Yeah,
Look, maybe there's some that are really chill and nice that I would get along with, but you know, I
but I
haven't
haven't
met
met
them
them.
yet. I'm sorry if you happen to love, you know, lap dogs, but they're not for me. Um, yeah, so anyway, I've been enjoying that. It's just a very chill read. And like because of there's like this kind of idea of like someone who's stuck in the city dreaming of like living on a tropical island and like that sounds really
I mean, you've
good.
already taught me into it. I just bought the damn book. You can stop now. Do you get kickbacks from
I
this
do
Clune?
not. I am not receiving any sort of affiliate link benefits or anything for that one.
Ah,
I really need to
rude.
get my game together. And I've on TV, we've been watching Slow Horses, which I absolutely love. Gary Oldman's like one of my favorite actors of all time, and he's so good in this. Um, it's really funny. Spy stuff is usually not my thing, but I really like Slow Horses. That's on Apple TV Plus, but totally worth a watch. It's got just the best one-liners. There's something about British comedy that I've always liked, and to me, this is one of the peak. Like, you know, it's just constant piss take, and but like done really whip smart, so you really have to pay attention. um, so yeah, enjoy Flow Horses. And then we've been binging Peacemaker season two, which has been highly entertaining in a different way. But I find John Cena a really interesting actor for that role because he has that big dumb lug face and it works so well.
Yep.
And I know that John Cena is not a big dumb lug. Like you
Yeah.
can tell that he is clearly there is a brain there, but he does the big dumb lug face
Yep.
really well. And as Peacemaker, he embodies that character really well, and it makes me laugh a lot.
Yep.
So I'm enjoying that one.
All right. Moving on from the updates.
All right. So book club.
Book club.
A Sorceress Comes to Call
Sorceress comes
by
cold. Yes.
T. Kingfisher, also known as Ursula Vernon, has written many books, many award-winning books.
Is that what authors do?
Yeah, apparently so.
Yeah,
Well, at least some of them
they do.
write many books. Some of them only write a few books. I really like Susanna Clark, but she's only written 2 novels. Given that she has like serious chronic fatigue issues, I can understand why.
Yeah, that'll do it.
um, yeah, so yeah, this book came out in 2024. It won a Hugo Award and a Nebula Award. Um, I was reading, I think it was in the author's note at the end that she was inspired by like Regency romances or Regency fantasy. So it's supposed to
Yeah, I
be
could
set in
feel
that
that.
time period. But it's definitely, I thought it was funny because it didn't seem English at all. There was, you know, aristocracy, there were lords and squires and things, but It felt very American to me. So it's clearly set in some sort of fantasy other world where, yeah.
See, I feel like when I was reading it, I feel like I was yeah, I wasn't thinking like America or England. I felt like I was thinking that they were in Germany or somewhere in the Western Europe area. I don't know
Okay.
why,
It
but
just felt culturally, it felt very Americanish
and
to
now you
me.
pointed out,
Yeah.
like it
Yeah.
does seem more like Homesteader America, some of the mannerisms
Yeah.
and tonal stuff,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
whereas the manners and the titles and was very
Yeah.
Victorian. So
Mm,
yeah, there's a bit of a clash there.
yeah.
So
But it worked okay for me. But yeah, this is so I think T. Kingfisher has a whole bunch of books that are kind of like fresh takes on fairy tales, and this one was riffing off of The Goose Girl, which is in Grimm's fairy tales. And I have some thoughts about that too. But first, let's do our initial impressions, likes and dislikes before we dig into the fairy tale subtext stuff.
Um, so I suppose my initial impressions, like I liked the pacing of
Mm-hmm.
it. It felt slow, but it felt
Mm-hmm.
right, the way it was sort of laid out. So I did like the pacing of it quite a lot. It wasn't a slog of a read either. I read it in a day, so it was definitely more of a casual story to
Mm-hmm.
read, which was
Yeah.
good. Um, it was definitely that it felt to me like the whole fairy tale was it was inverse.
Yeah.
Like everyone who was good in the original was bad in this
Yeah.
one. So
There was a lot of changing of um symbols and roles in this. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and I very much started out like I was grumpy at the girl, and I hated that I was grumpy at the girl. It was very it was very much you know when people are on the outside looking in on an abusive
Yeah.
relationship and going,
And
"Why
being
didn't you
really
just leave? Why
judgy.
didn't you just
Yeah.
do this?" Yes, and forgetting that she is like a 14-year-old girl who's been kept deliberately ignorant in the ways of
Yes.
the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
So, so I felt really bad by the end of it, but I liked how how it um transformed. She got one person who was just willing to explain things to her, and she really started jumping
Yeah.
up. It was a really good demonstration of when someone's kept deliberately ignorant, you can keep them caged in a corner of abuse and they don't know enough to look after themselves or leave, and you give them a little bit of knowledge and they can become stronger.
Yeah.
So
And this was
yeah,
clearly a character who they she didn't have Stockholm syndrome. She was not happy in her situation. She just literally could not
mm,
see a way out.
hmm
She was ready to, she was actually even tried to run away and she couldn't. She got ratted out and stopped.
yeah,
So she was just waiting for that opportunity to unlock, her situation. So we have Cordelia, who's kind of like one of the main characters, and she is 14 years old, as you mentioned, and she lives alone with her mother. And you get an impression very early on that this is not a healthy relationship at all. Um, I think you mentioned,
I always like it when my mother can control me like a
yeah.
puppet.
So yeah, I think what was it? Um, a few podcast episodes back where you were saying something about now we can really talk about coercive control. Like the mother
Yeah,
in this is the epitome of the absolute controlling helicopter parent, living out all of her own, desires and wishes vicariously through her child. And is quite horrible about how she does it. But I also really appreciated that the story had another viewpoint character, Hester, who is older. I could really relate to Hester in some ways because she's in her
She
50s.
was my favorite.
She is intentionally single in a society that really frowns upon spinsters, and but she has a good setup in that her brother doesn't seem to resent that at all, and they live quite happily, both single.
And let's face it, she's doing all the braining for
Yeah,
him.
yeah, it's somewhat of a symbiotic relationship, right? She gets the protection and money of his title, and he can just lean on her to do all the braining. And I really like the fact too that even though she's not married, um she doesn't, well, she doesn't have to be alone. She could have a relationship if she wanted to, but she chose to opt out of it, sort of partly to maintain her own independence and partly to she
It was the vanity side of it I didn't
she
like.
she she thought she was benefiting the other person. um
There, there was that thread through there though that like she a couple of times where she said like basically the biggest reason was that she never wanted him to look at her and see that she got wronged.
yeah, yeah,
It was a very vanity thing.
yeah, I mean,
The rest of her reasons I really
yeah,
liked. I liked the fact that she was just quite happy being independent, and in that era, if she got married, she would lose all of that. Even though he was a great guy who would let her do what she
yeah,
wanted, she still wouldn't be her anymore.
yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah, I mean, I think that was a shallow aspect of a otherwise really well-rounded character, and I think
yeah.
that was also partly in there by design. um
We all have
yeah,
these
we
human
have these things that we hang up
foibles,
on where
so.
we get a bit um
Mhm.
full of ourselves, I guess, or we forget how love works. Like, you know when you
That's the thing with all the conditions, right? That's how love
yeah,
works, yeah.
yeah, like, you when you care about someone and their appearance changes, you don't stop caring about them. You keep caring about them. Otherwise, it's not really love.
Yeah.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you on a lot of those first impressions. Like, it was a really good read. I didn't mind the slow start, and it did really get quite intense at the end, but in a good way. Um,
The other thing I liked is I have a particular fondness for quasi fantasy or fantasy series that don't put a shitload of effort into explaining the world. It's
yes,
just fact.
yes,
This is the world I live in, and that's what was done here. It's just
yeah,
sorcerers are a thing, witches are a
yeah,
thing. We're not going to explain their magic system or anything. They just
and
exist.
there's a plot hook with that plays out where you learn more alongside the characters, and I thought that was really cleverly done. Like, you don't have to have a shit ton of exposition at the beginning explaining why everyone thinks that sorcerers are just basically charlatans, or
Hmm.
basically stage magicians, or can only do like really limited magic. Like, if you want to do some world building like that, give it a reason and tell the story with that. Don't just like explain in tedious detail. So yeah, I do think,
Yep.
and I think that in the other stories by T. Kingfisher that I've read, she does a really good job of that as well. Like, I'm a big fan of her. Oh, what's it called now? It's I think it's called something else, like Clockwork Universe or something like that. But it's basically, I think of it in my brain as the world of the white rat, because that's one of the religions where they worship this god called the white rat. Um, she has a bunch of different books set in that universe that I really enjoy. Um, and naturally, when you have a series that's of stories set in the same universe, that gives you a lot of leeway to explain stuff, but she never kind of like tries to sit down in any of the books and kind of like tediously outline how that universe works. She tells a story
Yep.
and it feels real and lived in, and the characters feel believable, and
Yep.
crazy shit happens, and you discover along with the characters what's going on, and that builds out a bit more of the world. And
Yeah.
she,
As long as the author remembers enough about their world that they don't contradict
well,
themselves
yeah.
later, that's all I care about.
And I think that when you sort of build it naturally in service of the story, that it's actually easier to do it that way, because then you have to really think about how is this logical. you know anyway.
Yeah, if I have to read through three chapters and this is how our world
No,
works,
I'm out.
I've forgotten what you
Yeah,
started with by the time I
I'm
got to
just
the end.
bored.
If you make the characters live through it, I
Yeah,
remember it.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, I can definitely recommend those, as well as A Sorceress Comes to Call.
Yeah, I think I'll be reading a few more of T. Kingfisher's books in the near
Mm-hmm.
future.
So yeah, I did have one note though in here, that so she, in the story, she references um a book that really exists. So there's Cordelia, the main character, has a book that she had from school, and she's being taken to um with her mother to basically grift an older member of the gentry out of their money by marriage.
Mhm.
And she doesn't know how to behave in polite society because she's literally been isolated her whole life. But she does have the Lady's Book of Etiquette and
Yep.
Manual of Politeness by Miss Florence Hartley, which is a real book. You can go,
Is it?
yeah, you can go on to Project Gutenberg, and maybe I'll put the link in the show notes, and read the
Excellent,
real
because maybe
book.
if I read that, I'll turn into a proper
Yeah, well,
lady.
you will if you read it and follow all the advice. It was originally published in 1860. So that gives you kind of like a time frame of, I guess, when the story might plausibly be set sometime after 1860. And yeah, I just thought that was funny that she included that little detail. Like when I saw that, I'm like, that's so specific. That's got to be a real book. And I Googled it and I found that it was a real book.
That is actually a really interesting tidbit because I didn't go looking for
Yeah.
that. No.
So yeah, as I mentioned, apparently this is related to the story of the Goose Girl. So for any listeners who don't know that fairy tale, the Cliff's Notes version is that there is a princess who's being sent off to marry a king, and she has with her a horse called Falada, and like a handmaiden or a servant with her. Why she only has one person with her and she's a princess baffles me to this day,
Not a rich
but it
kingdom.
is a fairy tale, so let's not question that too much. And just along the way, the maidservant kind of keeps making these suggestions, and then she starts to get a little bit abusive with the princess, and effectively ends up forcing her to switch places. So the maidservant is presenting herself as the princess by the time they get there, and the actual princess, is relegated to status of servant. And they get to the kingdom, and the fake princess marries the king, and the real princess becomes the Goose Girl, and all these shenanigans happen. The maidservant at some point gets chops off Falada's head, and Falada keeps talking after it's dead, which is a little weird and creepy. But it was a talking horse, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that. Falada was always a talking horse, but then after its head is chopped off and hung up on the stable door, it still keeps talking. And mainly what it says is that, oh God, if your mother could see what happened to you, she would be so upset. Which,
Yep.
is fair enough. But finally, and then I think at one point, the princess is forced to promise that she will never tell anyone what's happened.
Yep.
But finally, people start to cotton on to what's going on, and I think it was the king who basically says, "Well, you can't tell me, but if you were just to happen to tell I think it was the oven or something like some inanimate object, tell the stove what happened. And if I happen to overhear it, then you're not breaking your promise." So she tells the whole story of what happens, and the king basically realizes that he's been hoodwinked. So he stages this.
I think that king learnt loopholes from
Yeah,
Daniel.
it does sound like his style.
Yep.
And then the king basically um, in a kind of like let's say there's a hypothetical scenario where a servant has done this. Hey, my wife, in air quotes, what do you think should be done if a servant did something like this? And she says, I think something like, you know, get put into a barrel that's full of nails or something and then rolled down a hill or something like that, something really gruesome. And he's like,
Depends on the telling.
yeah,
There's a
I think
few
there's probably
different
a
ones
few
she
different
comes up with.
versions, depending on how much they were like, oh, children might hear this. Because fairy tales didn't used to be for children, and that's why they're so weird. um,
I would have still told the kids
yeah,
them.
probably. Well, that's the thing. There was a lot less censoring of content for children hundreds of years ago. So
Yeah, it's probably just a modern comfort that you wouldn't tell kids these stories. They probably did.
yes. But anyway, so yeah, the king says, sounds like a deal, and reveals that he knows about her trickery and has the fake queen slash real
Punished in
maidservants,
the way that she
yeah,
suggests.
punished
Yes.
in her by her own suggestion, and marries the real princess, and presumably everyone lives happily ever after. And yeah, so they, I mean, some of the literary criticism of that story is basically more about like what happens to you when you deny your true self. So basically, you could read it as, oh, the maid servant bullied this poor princess into giving up her identity, but I guess the other read on it is, she kind of bit by bit made all these compromises that gave away her rights and responsibilities as a ruler.
Yep.
And so was humbled because of that. And also with the promise that she couldn't speak about what had happened, that sort of that self denial and not talking about it kind of go hand in hand. So part of like owning who you are is just being really honest and vulnerable about who you are. And I thought that was
And
interesting the way that dovetailed with the novel.
yep. Get out at the first red flag, not the 50th.
Yeah,
And know the difference between a red flag and a I don't like that.
yeah.
I'm sorry, I am getting a little bit snarky nowadays about how many people say that's a red flag, but the stupidest
Mm,
things. Yeah, can we please keep a closer eye on what's actually a red flag towards abuse and what's just a you don't like
yeah,
it?
that's true. That's true.
Anyway, yeah, so I don't know where I was going there.
Well, I was just
I
riffing on
like
the you pointed out that all the characters were inverted, and
yep.
but I think it's like an interesting exercise to kind of figure out which character maps to which fairy tale character, and the novel to fairy tale, who's who, because you could kind of see um Evangeline, the mother character in the novel, as the princess because she's going to go marry the squire, but you could also see her
But her goal
as,
was to marry off Cordelia, so
yeah,
she could always so be the
yeah,
queen.
she could also be the queen, or she could also be the servant, She was
Hmm.
trying to change her social status because she wanted to marry into, you know,
Yep.
um, some kind of title and marry into wealth.
Hmm.
So yeah, and yeah, but I think the the really easy one is there is a horse called Falada in the novel. That
Hmm.
horse is also really
Who's that?
fucking evil.
Who is actually not
It's
a horse,
actually
he's a
not a
demon.
horse. It's a familiar. Um, but yeah, that one's easy. That one's not as mysterious. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, and then kind of looking at the themes in the novel about finding your true identity and knowing who you are. There's all of these sort of well, there's Hester as well, like who knows who she is, but also she kind of learns something about I don't have to give up my identity just because I'm in a romantic relationship at the end,
Hmm.
which I thought was interesting.
Yep.
And then the other characters as well. So there's at one point it becomes sort of a party at the house. They decide to have a house party and have a bunch of people over, and there's a friend Imogene who
Sounds like AJ's also got a party
yeah, I've
going
got
on
a
over at her
bedtime party in my
house.
house. So Imogene, who loves to play cards and drink out of a flask, I really liked her
Yep.
character.
Yeah, I did too.
I highlighted this section when her character kind of gets revealed a bit more because he kind of um she gets referred to at first as Lady Strauss, but then they kind of go into the parlor after dinner and she reaches into her knitting bag and fishes out a deck of cards and a flask and says,
Yep.
I don't suppose I could interest you in a game. And Hester says, not on your life, you old card sharp, but you can pour a little of that rum into my tea. I loved that moment.
Yep.
That says so much about the characters just in those two
Yep.
sentences.
Yep.
So
And like realistically in the book, Hester is actually the king from the fairy tale.
in some ways
Because
she
she's the one that figures
is.
it out and twigs it, and
Yeah.
she's the one that sorts it all
Yeah.
out. The brother is really
He's
just like an
he's
appendage over there. He
not
doesn't
a
have a lot to do with
well-rounded
anything.
character at all. So I really liked that this book did have people who knew who they were and they were actively helping Cordelia figure out who she was and help free her from
Yeah.
this oppressive influence and kind of come
Yeah.
into her
Well,
own.
like, what was the one that got murdered? What was her name?
Oh, gosh.
Green? Something?
Yeah, Mrs. Green was her name, but I can't remember
Yeah,
her first name now.
and neither can
um,
I. But I loved that she was explaining, you can have looks or you can have style. And looks, they can change. If you fall and you hurt yourself, you get disfigured, you don't have your looks
yeah,
anymore. So make sure that you have
yeah,
style.
yeah.
Yeah, a style. It doesn't like she's not even talking about being fashionable. She's like embrace your thing.
Yes.
And I love that because she was like, you know, see, because like this is my style. Doesn't matter. They brought those silly feathers in, and I was not.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, so she wasn't changing for these styles.
She
She had
worked out
her
she worked
style.
out what looked good on her and what she felt comfortable
Yep.
in and felt herself in and made that her style and stuck with it.
Yeah.
Um,
And I love the fact that they explained it. Like she's got scars on her face from some illness or
yeah.
something that she had, and still everybody
She had
adores her because of the
smallpox.
energy she has. And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
so
Penelope Green was that character's
that was
name.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
I had to look it up.
So yeah, I was very very upset when they killed her off because she was like my
I was
favorite.
too,
I
but
just loved her.
spoiler alert, she's just because she's dead doesn't mean she goes out of the story altogether. And I thought that
Yeah.
was an awesome twist as well. And that she was really central to the story. It wasn't just a gimmicky thing. Like
Yeah, and she was really central to winning
yeah,
in the end as
yeah,
well.
exactly.
So
So
yeah.
yeah, she was absolutely that model of know who you really are and just be that, and
Yep.
the rest will fall into place. So I really like that.
Yep. I did too. All right, so we should wrap it
We
up so you
should.
can do bedtime and stuff.
Yes, we should. It's getting late.
Yep.
Did we I nominated we do ratings out of 5 terrifying headless horses.
I liked that. Makes sense once you read the book.
Well, if you want to.
Not horsemen,
Horses,
horses, headless
headless horses.
horses.
All right, so what was your rating out of 5 terrifying headless horses?
Um, I'd say probably a good solid 4. I might reread it in the future just for nostalgia value. I didn't like, and I would absolutely recommend anyone give it a go. It takes a lot to get a 5 out of me,
Yeah,
so
I'm the same. I would even say on this one, um, I almost give it like a 3.5 out of 5. Not because and I think I'm grading on a curve. I just think some of T. Kingfisher's other stuff has been better. And I did find the setting a little just weird. Like I said at the beginning, like it
yeah.
felt very American culturally. And I'm not saying she should stay in her lane or whatever. It just landed weirdly for me. I kept trying to figure out where it was in the world, because if at first, the first chapter or so, I thought, okay, this is set in America. Oh wait, America never had squires. What the hell? so
I th like
so that
I think I'm a bit generous as
yeah.
well because I haven't read any other Kingfisher
Mm-hmm.
stuff, so I'm not
Yeah.
spoilt by that. But it was also so it was just well
Mm-hmm.
delivered in a time when I was having real trouble not just rereading old stuff, like
Yeah.
getting my brain to like enjoy something
Yeah.
new. So I'm probably a little more biased towards the positive
Yeah.
scale because I did
I
enjoy
did
reading
enjoy
it.
reading
So
it too. I would totally recommend it if you just wanted a fun read, especially if you're a person who likes fairy tale adaptations and fairy tale themes. Like,
yeah,
it's definitely well done. There's some really likable characters. Um, the the antagonist is just irredeemably bad, and you just don't feel bad
yeah.
hating her, and you don't feel bad with what happens to her in the end. um
No, but it was interesting though, wasn't it? Because they finally did give her a bit of backstory about how she went that
yeah.
way, and you still didn't feel
No.
like it didn't feel bad for her at all
Yeah,
because she set herself up
she
for
really
it.
did, and she just used everybody. She saw everyone
Yeah,
else as a usable extension of herself, rather than actually
definite
seeing them as
narcissist.
other
Yeah,
people. So yeah.
yeah.
um
Like she couldn't even keep track of what she had and hadn't told her
yeah.
daughter. She was supposed to just
She always,
know what she
yeah, she
knew. She
always,
literally thought she was an
she
extension of herself and
literally
had
thought her
access to
daughter
all.
knew everything that she knew, and got mad at
Yeah,
her when she was ignorant.
yeah,
What is wrong with you, woman? Yeah, so
yeah.
yeah, I liked it. It was a fun read. Definitely check out some of the other books by T. Kingfisher, I would say.
Yep.
And that's us.
Anyway, so awkward outro.
Awkward outro.
Awkward outro. Bye, Greer.
Bye, Greer.
We now have a Discord server as well as all our socials, so links on the website and help us peer pressure Greer into joining us. One of us.
Yes. Or you could just come on and say what you liked, or ask us to do an episode on something.
And until next time, keep waving those freak flags high.
And embrace the beautifully bizarre.